three more community leaders in the Republican Party to talk about the current state of the Republican Party in North Carolina and nationally, and where we're going to go from here in the aftermath of the November presidential election. I'll introduce Harvey West, Jim Womack, and Carl Mishka. Harvey's chairman of the 1st District Committee. Jim Womack is county commissioner, county party leader in Lee County and Sanford County, and Carl is the 3rd District leader. Guys, thank you very much for sitting in here. In the aftermath of the election, there was an awful lot of commiserating going on about, the Republican Party is in jeopardy because Donald Trump might start a third party, take his 75 million people with him, and all of that. Why don't we start there? Do you have any idea how we're going, what steps we can take to reform the Republican Party and be more responsive to the electorate?
My question would be, if I may, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to reform the Republican Party? I mean, that is the question. Our party is our platform. Yep. So what do we need to do? I don't think the party needs to be reformed. We've had a solid platform for years. The Republican Party's job is to elect Republicans. That's what we do. And we don't write policy. We don't dictate to our elected officials what they do. We elect Republicans. If we don't like an elected official, then we primary them. And so, we conduct the party's business. To reform the Republican Party is to say that something's wrong with the Republican Party. I may not like everything that happens. I may not like how the elections go, but I honestly don't see anything wrong with the party per se. I support our platform. And most people who are Republicans support the platform, or they wouldn't be in the Republican Party. So to reform the party, I don't think that is the right question.
Well, there are some people, and Jim can speak to this because we were just talking about this yesterday, that there's a lot of people that are leaving the Republican Party and going to independent status, and they say that the Republican Party is not listening to them anymore. Jim, why don't you speak to that?
Well, thank you, John. And I respect what Harvey says, and a lot of what he says is very accurate about the platform, because if you analyze the platform, all the various steps and the points in the platform, it's irrefutably conservative, and the only party platform in America that represents traditional American values, Judeo-Christian principles, et cetera. So I totally agree with Harvey that there's nothing wrong with the platform, that a few wordsmithing and tweaks might fix to keep it contemporary and current. However, the party is not the platform. The party is the sum total of activity and success and governance that the Republic experiences from our leadership. And so there are some serious deficiencies in the Republican Party aside from the platform. For example, the state plan of organization looks like it was written in the 1980s. It has no modern features in it whatsoever, and it's impractical for execution of operations in the Republican Party. It's desperately in need of reform. And year after year after year, we echo that sentiment, and the leadership of the party ignores it. They don't run a year-round committee to solicit inputs to the platform. They have a committee that meets, perfunctory committee that meets, once every 2 years to take a few looks at it, and then they suppress anything that is objectionable to the establishment in the party. So we got a seriously deficient party plan of organization. And then we've got some hindrances within the party, cultural hindrances, which say, we don't criticize elected officials who are elected Republicans. We don't criticize them because of the Ronald Reagan rule. And that's a serious deficiency, because what Harvey said we do is we'll primary him. Well, we don't. The party stays out of the primary. The party has nothing to do with primary without getting you in trouble, because you're not supposed to show favoritism. According to our plan of organization, you don't show favoritism of one Republican over another. So everyone's worried about calling out an elected official and criticizing them, but yet that's what we're hearing from the grassroots of the party. They are very upset with Tom Tillis and Richard Burr and several of our congressmen, and everybody's afraid to say anything for fear of being brought up for party discipline. So we've got some serious deficiencies, operational, cultural, and otherwise. The platform is rock solid, but aside from that, I'd say that we got some major reforms needed.
Carl, we've talked about this before. Give us your insights. You've been around an awful long time, and you ought to be able to give us some get in between here and see what you can contribute.
Well, John, thank you. One of the thoughts everybody's on top of mind right now is everyone's leaving the Republican Party. That's bullshit. Pardon my language, but I can't say it any other way. For the last 2 years, we've been tracking the growth of the party in North Carolina, and it's been growing county by county to the point that we have taken the dominant position. That is, we've outnumbered the Democrats. We've flipped several counties, more than several, I think about 7. And the same is happening on the ballot with, for example, Onslow County. All of a sudden, it took them years, but they got their Board of Education elections to be partisan. And what do we have? 7 Republicans sitting on that board. Didn't happen before. Needs to be done in Craven County, needs to be done in a lot of counties. But the point is, the party is sound. The execution has some problems. What Jim said is correct, that for me to help get our junior senator reelected last fall, I had to tell everybody, hold your nose the same way you did it 6 years ago. Because Tom Tillis doesn't care much about Eastern North Carolina. He's stated such, and I just don't want the alternative. I don't want a Democrat in that seat, and we have yet to come up with, we don't have a bench. When Carl talks to youngsters about our job, it's number 1, recruiting candidates. It's number 2, vetting candidates to make sure that there are no surprises when someone does opposition research. Number 3, electing them. And then number 4, keeping their feet to the fire. We don't do all of those things equally. And the recruitment of candidates is a real concern, because even as we're looking at our own county and district party organizations, I'm sitting on a nominated committee for Craven County, and I've got 7, 8 spots to fill, and I've only got 4 people have stepped forward. The volunteerism has to be reactivated. And the 3 of us on this panel today all work hard at that, and we're somewhat proficient at that. The point is that we need more people wanting to put their oars in the water. That's number 1. Number 2, since moving to North Carolina a dozen years ago and getting involved in Carolina politics, it amazes me that there's no interface between the party and the General Assembly.
Amen.
The legislature. Those leaders there don't recognize anything on Hillsborough Street unless they need to use our studio. And by the same token, we have no influence over them. They should be the active parts of the party within the state. It is that way in several other states with which I'm familiar. So that's something to work on. The third thing is anybody who says they're leaving the party because of the election or someone not acting, there's only so much you can do. North Carolina did well by the president. We didn't do well with the governor's mansion, but we had a candidate who, frankly, and I've been said this before, didn't tell enough people that he wanted the job, didn't work the way you have to in campaigning, and each of the three of us loved Dan Forrest, the four of us. You know, a finer man you could not find as far as his morals, as far as his standards, his scruples, but he's not a politician. And he got beat by somebody who wore a mask all the time. When we did door knocking here at senior citizens' houses, the most often comment we got was, we don't like the fact with COVID that he's not wearing a mask. Our governor is, by setting a good example. And that cost him a lot of votes. Somebody else get in here.
A lot of, recently with the second impeachment of Donald Trump in the House of Representatives, there were 10 Republicans, and there seems to be an attempt to try and make those 10 people the example for the entire party. And then on the other hand, we have the same thing that we've dealt with for years, with people that say they're one thing when they're running and asking for our money and for our vote, and then when they get elected, they become somebody else. Well, really, all they're doing is going back to being what they were to start with. And there's a lot of folks that think that we need to do more to vet these candidates. Well, Keith Kidwell is working on starting up a program to do just that. And how that all matures, I don't really know just yet. But, clearly, Tom Tillis is a good example. He was never a conservative, but he was always the on the right side from our perspective in terms of getting numbers, but he really was not a conservative. So, we shouldn't be surprised that he has taken a turn that we might not agree with.
The other thing I'm hearing is people floating the idea that immediate former President Trump is going to start another party. He doesn't have to do that. He provided us, the reason everybody is against him, and I think we'll agree on this, is he's not a politician. He didn't follow the rules. He messed things up. He tried to drain the swamp. He did some of that, but his persona, his personality, which I've never found grating, but sometimes I thought he overdid it. He's a New York construction guy. He's rough and tumble, and he scared the bejesus out of an awful lot of people in Washington, who then decided we have to get rid of him. They tried by the Russiagate, they tried by impeachment, and then they got somebody in China to release a disease. I don't know what the real story is, but I know that an awful lot of people will mark him as our most effective president in decades.
But yet I saw an article, I saw a headline today that all the things he said was nothing but a pack of lies. Well, it's not very hard to verify whether it's right or it's wrong. We all know it's right. But the media has been on his ass like stink on shit ever since he walked in the White House.
Yeah, the problem that we're facing today is an existential problem and unprecedented in history because, and I'm not sure even our founders could have envisioned this as prescient as they were. That is the fact that the media now comes in many forms, and the vast majority of media outlets that people's opinions are shaped by are revisionists, and they will discount anything that he ever did and rewrite the history of the last 4 years right in front of us and say that he didn't accomplish things. He was just there as a caretaker over Obama's economy. They'll rewrite history. They'll change what he did. They'll not give him credit for Israeli peace deals, moving the embassy. All this stuff will be lost in history because of the way the media operates, or at least in short-term history. So that's a problem because it's part of the game plan from the left. And it's a sinister game plan to try to deprogram what the right thinks and does, and rewrite history so that the perceptions are that only the left cares about the country and our future, and only the left has solutions. And you can see that today. The poet laureate of the United States, young black girl that was selected, the first ever, teenage or 20-something poet laureate, wrote a poem for the inauguration day. And by the way, I didn't watch the inauguration. I just happened.
Nor did I.
Neither did I.
And the poem is just completely false and nothing but abject lies about faith. Our faith is in our democracy, and that Trump was just a blurb. Was an unfortunate thing in the recent past. It's going away, and we'll restore the balance, and democracy will prevail, and America will be great again because Donald Trump is gone. I mean, basically, it infers all of that in the poem, and it's all part of the media spin, the indoctrination that our children are getting in the schools and on TV and on Twitter. And I'm going to tell you, it's a serious problem, and it's a problem that is not addressed currently in our platform. It's a problem not addressed in our plan of organization. And it's a problem that's taking its toll on the party. I can tell you right now that even in solid Republican counties, that the optics of what has happened in the last month is so bad that you've got people bailing on the party, and they're not going to listen to us leaders that are telling them how great the party really is and how we're going to come back and we're going to restore the goodness of our elected officials. People are so upset right now. Those 75 million Trump followers are so upset. They're bailing on the party. They're not asking anybody. They're not threatening. They're just going. And I can tell you, I've got a daily change report that I get from my board of elections. And our numbers are still going up for Republicans. But there's a lot of Republicans that are changing party to unaffiliated. There's a lot of Republicans there's several Republicans in the last 2 weeks that have changed to Democrat. And I've called several of them when I found out what was going on, and they're telling me they're just so disillusioned with the national party, they don't want to be affiliated anymore. It's happening in Bladen County. It happened here. It's happening in Surrey County. It's happening, and people don't realize it because they're not watching the reports, but people are bailing. Republicans, good conservatives are bailing on the party right now. And before we wake up and realize that it's going to be too late, we could lose the party if we don't come back out with strong messaging and a description of the actions we're going to take to get back on track and to hold our elected officials accountable.
Jim, were you on the call last night?
Yeah.
Okay. And Harvey, I know you were on the call. The whole point, John, this is a chairman's call to county chairman and state chairman's call to county chairman, district chairman, et cetera. And the question kept coming up about messaging. We kept being told, well, we're going to have messaging. The messaging we have, and this speaks to your point, Jim, never attacks the real problem. It never says what we have done plus what we're doing now plus what we're going to do. It has to have all three of those things. Three? Well, whatever. It's a case of the election was November 6th. Georgia was lost in January 5. On January 6th, a bunch of a-holes, none of our people, attacked the Capitol building, and we have yet to respond. We have yet to disown anybody. We're just because we're afraid that we might be caught in a lie or we might be overemphasizing our position. We've got to get out and fight. And the way to get some of those defectors back is remind them, those that are working, when their first paycheck in February is down some dollars, that's because Biden said he wasn't going to increase taxes on anybody making less than X, but he's eliminating the Trump tax cuts. And there's going to be 30% of the people, Harvey, your people, are going to get hit. You've got 6 families that are going to have less money, or 7, whatever the number is. Anyway, your families are going to have less money because the payroll numbers, the chart that comes out, is going to say you have to hold back more. And I can't wait to have the hue and cry and then say, well, you voted for that. No, I didn't. Well, you did. You just don't have, you have to listen to what a man says. I don't wish nor do any of us wish the new administration ill. I just wish that if we were going to lose an election, we would have lost it fair and square. I do not believe it was an honest election. And until we have photo ID nationwide, our elections are subject to theft. And I don't know why we vote for 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks in some states, which opens up more opportunity for fraud. I have lived and voted in New York State and in California, our 2 most populous states. When I lived there, you voted on one day. And if you were a traveling person or thought you might not be able to vote, you asked for an absentee ballot. They verified who you were, your address, your registration, sent that to you. It had to be witnessed and it went back. None of this mass mailing of ballots from China or anywhere else. We've got a real sticky situation and we've let it get out of hand. And right now, they have the upper hand.
Well, they have the upper hand in this case because they blamed everything on COVID, yet if you got COVID interfering with the election, but then people can go to Walmart and congregate in large numbers, and yet you can't go to church and you can't do this or that, but you can do these other things. And then you watch it, the hypocrisy, and you realize it's nothing more than a political ploy to start with, but it was an effective one for the Democrats, no question about it.
Yeah, I'll add one thing to what Carl said. Or actually a couple things. We're just now seeing or hearing the war toxins being sounded. HR 1 is going to, if it passes with any semblance of what's in the content now, HR 1 will get rid of voter ID. HR 1 will make absentee by mail voting the standard for the country. HR 1 is a major threat to ever restoring integrity to our elections. And it opens the door for all kinds of loopholes and problems. That's HR 1 by number, because the Democrats had such great success in the strategic election cycle they just went through that they're gonna now make it nationwide. They want to inculcate that in every state. And I'm hoping it's going to be challenged in the courts if it passes, that the courts will say, no, it's a state matter to run elections and the federal government can't impose all those rules. But if they're successful, and it's possible they would be, it's over. I mean, there's no way you're ever going to win another election on the national level. So that's a real problem. And then I'll tell you the other thing that people don't realize, and I can't imagine why the average citizen on the street doesn't get it. And I've been seeing posts on Facebook about this. Go look at the gas prices right now, and they're up, but go look at them right now, lock it in, because the war on fossil fuels that is about to kick off is going to have such a deleterious effect on the economy. It touches everybody. I don't care how rich or poor you are, you pay the price when oil and gas prices go up. If you live in the Northeast, your fuel oil prices are going up. If you live in Texas or in the South, your transportation costs are going up. I'm going to tell you something, that thing alone is going to cause a major tremor in the markets. And it's going to have an effect on grocery prices, on roofing costs, on construction. Everything you do is touched by gas prices. And I mean, our economy is driven by over the road long haul truckers. Right. And they're going to be suffering because they're not, even the ones that burn natural gas are going to be paying a higher price. So there's that part. And then the illegal aliens, the millions of new voters in this country, that this path to citizenship that's being granted, all these new illegal aliens that are coming into the country in the next year or two, and the legalization of the ones that are here now are only going to add to the voter rolls for the Democrat Party, because they're going to be made slaves to the state or beholden to the state. And then the pressure on people to be able to get a job, or the ability of average citizens without a high education level to get a job competing with those illegals that need work to feed their families, is going to be insurmountable. I tell you, the cataclysm. Oh, and I haven't even addressed the Green New Deal yet. Okay, and what that's going to do to industry in this country. You know, forcing every house to be changed, every industry to have to change the way they fuel, the way they heat and cool, the way they power their computers. I mean, everything is touched by the Green New Deal, and they're just getting started. This country, I mean, China is laughing at us right now. They own this country, and they're about to take charge of it with the Manchurian candidate in the White House. So I'm just telling you, you know, it's not a thing that you want to bring popcorn to an event. I mean, this is one of those things where you want to gird up your loins and get ready to go do battle, because that's what we're facing.
Well, there's no question that that China has, whether they release the coronavirus or not on purpose, I would submit that they did, and they just caught the entire world in it. They only wanted really to get us, but they got the whole world involved in it. And now that the Democrats are able to use that effectively to take down the only president that's ever taken any aggressive action against them. So, you know, they were rooting for the Democrats, and now I think that if we don't do something affirmative, we're going to see this country, you know, it won't be very long before we're under communist Chinese rule. We could have been, you know, it's just hard to know, but it's a very desperate situation, I think.
John, if I may, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. Our country has a lot of problems, but our state is doing very well. And out of all the panelists on here, our state is the only thing we can do anything about. You know, and look what we've done in this election cycle. You know, we swept the board on judicial candidates. Paul Newby as our Supreme Court justice. All right. So all of the lawsuits that we were subjected to the last governor's administration, and all the court cases that we lost as a party, that's going to be turned around. All right. So we have the court supporting our legislature. We maintained control of the North Carolina Senate. We picked up representatives in the North Carolina House. Yes, Governor Cooper can still veto, but we have a Supreme Court, a superior court in North Carolina that will back up our legislature. To me, that is an awesome accomplishment.
It really is, Harvey. No question about it.
And so,
let me take quick exception to what Harvey just said. We are still in the 4-3 minority on the state Supreme Court. We do not have control of the state Supreme Court. We have the Chief Justice, and he assigns cases for opinions and that sort of thing in the AOC. But we're in the minority, and I'm gonna promise you this: those 4 that are on that court right now are not conservative. They're
not. But we made gains. The question is the part, you know, what's the future of the Republican Party? We made substantial gains this election cycle.
Oh, hey, I don't question that. We did some magnificent things. We collectively, the state, did enormous amount of work for the judicial candidates this year And we just got Chief Justice Newby over the hump by 400 votes statewide in a 4 million vote race. He won by 400 votes. I mean, it was tight. It was really close, but we got him over the top. Now we've got a 4-3 minority that we got to improve on. But I'm going to tell you, the battle has just begun. We'd lost the governor's race. We needed that governor's seat. That full administration is going to be at war with the General Assembly. General Assembly does not have a supermajority, still doesn't have one. And I'm not so sure we can get it back without some major changes in election reform. So, I mean, the glass is also half full. It's also half empty. And I'm going to tell you, where we are right now, we're treading water. We're no really better off than we were 4 years ago, except for one thing. We got a great lieutenant governor who is not afraid to tell the truth, to put it out there and to tell people exactly what the vast majority of citizens of North Carolina are saying. He is very outspoken, and he's going to be a great banner bearer for the party. But I can tell you, we're really not much better off than we were 4 years ago. And we don't have a president anymore. We don't have a president, so the state is going to suffer the consequences of that.
Who do you think's going to be the chief candidate to take Richard Burr's seat? Anybody? Go ahead.
I can tell you who won't win it.
Go ahead, Carl.
We're gonna
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so here's where I think, and ground truth changes daily on that, and it's way early.
Of course.
But you've got some declared candidates. You got Mark Walker, who came out early with a big commercial and a splash, and he's got the backing of the American Conservative Union and CPAC, and he's a good Christian conservative. You've got Pat McCrory going to the winter meeting of the RNC. So Pat, old Governor Pat. He's obviously sizing it up to make a run. You've got, I think there's a couple of folks down around the Charlotte area that have run before that are thinking about running. You definitely have got a couple of U.S. congressmen who are not saying a lot, but are thinking about it. I know that. There's a couple of folks that are not being talked about that I think have the best shot, honestly, at securing a nomination if they got at it pretty quick. One of them we've already discussed. Dan Forrest, I think, would make an exceptional candidate for U.S. Senate. And he's very statesmanlike. He's very knowledgeable. He's been a successful lieutenant governor for 8 years. He knows this state as well as anybody. He's well-spoken. The grassroots of the party loves the guy. And I think head-to-head with a Josh Stein or Roy Cooper in 2 years he would size up really well for a U.S. Senate seat. He would have to change somewhat what he did in the run to be successful, but he would be one of the top 2 or 3 candidates in my mind. I'll be honest with you, nobody's saying this right now. Nobody expects this, but I'll tell you the guy that actually has the best shot at being our nominee for U.S. Senate in 2022, and who I think would would be an incredibly good campaigner for Senate, is Mark Keith Robinson. And the reason I say that is because he's right now the banner.
Lost you, Jim. Jim, hello? Let somebody else talk.
Well, they cut Jim off because he mentioned Mark Robinson twice. We're not allowed to do that without getting, that's just one of the rules. Didn't everybody get the rules? This is an interesting, go ahead, Jim, you're back.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, I lost you there for a second. I think Mark would be a great candidate. And I got to tell you, there are some other candidates out there that I think have, that could come out of the woodwork and be candidates. I mean, there's some young legislators in the General Assembly who, I think of somebody like Aaron Paray that just got elected out of the Wake County area, who's got a very good status and who's going to hopefully set the world on fire. And Bishop, who is a first term, now a second term congressman, looks really strong. I mean, there's some other people out there that I think could enter in the race and do a good job, but they'd have to do it early to get the name recognition and to do the funding that's going to be necessary to run successfully for Senate.
Any other comments? Carl? Harvey?
Well, I can tell you that some of us are in the waning part of our lives age-wise, and I'm getting the COVID vaccination tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I'm carrying a do not resuscitate order, which my wife refuses to sign. She's a notary. It has a different last name, so it makes it legal, but or acceptable. Anyway, we've got an awful lot of work to do, and I'm going to work to solve this nation and this party's problems as long as I can draw breath. And I know that everybody on this call feels the same way. We have to find a way to go back to the founders and end up with 12 people or 15 people or 20 people that sit in a tavern day and night or night into the day and identify, writing down all of the problems we have to overcome, and then delegate, come up with taskmasters to solve the various problems that the party and the state, and Harvey, you said it right, we only can control what goes on here, and we have to have an action plan, and we have to do it between now and June. We have to do it so that at our state Republican convention, we will also be electing a new chairman. We've got a plan in place. That's all I've got.
Harvey, last comment.
Last comment. As much as I hate it, Donald Trump's gone. We all supported him. Each one of us supported him. Each one of us worked hard for him. Was there voter fraud? Yes. Was it a rigged election? Yes. Was there computer glitches? Yes. You know, there's too much evidence not to look at it. Now, when Biden talks about unity, he's not talking about unity with us. He's talking about unity with the electeds up in D.C. You know, he's talking about unity with Mitch McConnell and the minority leader,
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. He's not talking about unity with us. So, you know, I'm not too blind that I can't see that. But as the chairman of the first district, I can't focus on that. I have to focus on getting candidates to run for our congressional district. I have to focus on getting our county conventions done, our district convention done, get ready for the state convention, get ready for the next two judicial candidates that are coming up in 2022. That's our job. That's Carl's job. That's Mr. Womack's job. So to say that, you know, what's in it in the future of the Republican Party in North Carolina is how hard we work at it. That's what's the future of the Republican Party. Yes, there are going to be some people that don't like what happened and are going to leave. It's our job to convince them to stay. Messaging was a big issue. We have to do better. We have to work harder. You know, we have to reach out to some of the minority communities. We've had some party leaders that talk about that, you know, there's no diversity in the Republican Party. That is not true. You know, yes, Mark Keith Robinson was a great victory, but you've got Clarence Henderson of the Frederick Douglass Foundation. You got Abdul Ali with the Black Conservative Voices of North Carolina. Those guys are all over this state working in Black and brown communities, bringing new recruits to the Republican Party. That's the work. That's the future task. That's what we have to look forward to. I can't look at yesterday. I have to look at tomorrow. And tomorrow is as bright as we make it. And all we have to do is roll up our sleeves and go to work.
There's no time to waste. We've got, if whatever we're going to do, if we're going to be able to elect a good slate of candidates in 22 and then again in 24, that we can't afford to waste a single day.
Yeah, let me propose to you what I think is the way forward for the party. I learned from history. I'm a history buff, and I learned from history, and I try not to repeat the same problems. And we corrected a few things this year, particularly in the judicial races, but we didn't correct a lot of other things. The party is still a party of the 20th century. And if we don't get our act in gear this year during the long session and get a legislative agenda for election reforms, election management reforms, we're going to suffer the consequences in 2022, because the Democrats are not stupid. They've gone to school on what worked in other states. They're collaborating, and they're going to bring a lot of that to North Carolina. They know how to cheat. They know how to get around the rules, how to do voter fraud, ballot fraud. And I'm going to tell you something. If we don't fix our gaping loopholes in the North Carolina statutes, we're going to be losing the General Assembly in 2022. I can tell you that right now. We got things we got to fix to prevent our losing those elections in the future. Tell you the other thing, the party's not ready. The party is not ready, and I don't mean to sound so demeaning to the current structure, because the platform is great, but the plan of organization does not allow latitude to do things in an organized and orderly fashion. They were flying by the seat of their pants this last year with COVID. We got to fix our plan of organization. It needs a top to bottom complete revision so that it operates like a business instead of like a club. The thing is set up like a country club, and nobody wants to associate with us. So, I mean, we're going to have erosion of people going forward because they don't believe the party's well organized. I mean, I got a multi-million-dollar donor that I talk to every day who gave over $240,000 to candidates in North Carolina this last year. A lot of it at my urging. He's not going to give another penny to the Republican Party. He's given up. He's changed his party affiliation. He's getting ready to move his family to St. Bart. His guy is just fed up with the Republican Party and listening to people. He's talked to Tim Moore. He's talked to Phil Berger at the General Assembly. He's talked to Michael Whatley. And I'm going to tell you something. He speaks for a lot of donor types. They're not going to give another nickel to the party because we're not organized for combat, and we're not ready to encounter or to take on the Democrats the way we've been the way we've tried to do in the past. He's lost faith in a lot of our elected officials because they're not accountable. I'm going to tell you, this is a dire situation for the Republican Party. We are the only party that can save this country. And right now we're flat on our butts. The only way we're going to fix it, stop people from going to the Patriot Party or some other thing. The only way we're going to stop this and restore confidence is if we come out fighting. And right now,
all right, let's say they start a Patriot Party. Let's say they start a Patriot Party. It would take them 5 years to get up to speed and be able to field candidates.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The fact is that you lose elections because of it.
We had to deal with COVID. All right. The Central Committee couldn't meet. The plan of organization, was it utilized? No, because we were under duress and we were under extreme circumstances. And thankfully, Chairman Whatley pulled us through and made these virtual conventions happen, something that had never been done before. We were reinventing the wheel, and we were reinventing the process to be able to meet and organize and hold our conventions. So we did things that had never been done before. And under the leadership of Whatley, I mean, I was not a Whatley supporter. I didn't vote for him, but I got to give the man credit. He pulled this state through one of the hardest and most trying times the state of North Carolina has ever seen. And the man did an awesome job.
Hey, so Harvey, don't misinterpret my comments. I never said a word about Michael Whatley.
No, but I'm saying you talk about the plan of organization and you talk about COVID. The plan of organization was not ready for COVID, period.
You're making my point. You're making my point.
For the entire 2020, we did not operate under the plan of organization. It was basically, Chairman Whatley, you're going to have to do this because we can't even meet in person to get things done.
See, Harvey, you made my case right there. You exactly reinforced what I said. Our plan is inadequate. It is written in the 1980s and 90s. It needs a complete reform.
I've been on the plan of organization committee. I've been on the plan of organization committee for the last 5 years. We meet every year. Not one time. Who would have thought we would be undergoing a pandemic? I mean, hey, look, we can go in and put a procedure for pandemic, but I mean, how many times do you experience a pandemic? Come on, Jim.
Hey, it's not just pandemics, Harvey. You're looking in the rear view mirror. You're not looking forward. What have we got in there that embraces technology in any way, shape, or form? It doesn't have to be a pandemic. It could be another global disaster of some sort. Our plan of organization does not have any provisions for handling those things. It doesn't have any alternative plan B, plan C type operations. And we were, again, flying by the seat of our pants on how we're going to vote. We didn't make any major substantive changes this year because we were under restrictions. We couldn't meet in person and work those things. We should not be meeting once a year to fix the plan or the platform or whatever. That's a year-round operation. And if you don't do things year-round, you are never going to catch up.
Yeah. We just have to disagree on that, Mr. Womack.
Well, you know what? You can disagree all day long, and I can tell you right now. You take you get out of your ivory palace and look around and talk to people. I can tell you, I'm at the retail level, and I'm listening to people. I'm talking to people, and you got about 80 county chairs right now. 80 county chairs who are ready to cut someone's throat. They are not happy. And if you weren't on that call last night, watching those comments and listening to those people, it would have resonated with you.
I was on the call, and look, it did resonate with me on some of the things, but to blame it on the plan of organization and to blame it on blame COVID, nobody could have foreseen COVID. Nobody could have foreseen.
I'll tell you one thing I can foresee.
And I think this state did very well. This state did very well in our elections, considering what we had to deal with.
And the Democrats had to contend with the same problems, and they beat us. They beat us in the critical races. They beat us in the critical races. They had to beat us. They won the Secretary of State's race that we should have won. They won the governor's race that we should have won. They won the presidential race nationwide that we should have won. And I'm going to tell you something. We're going to get outplayed again if we keep doing business as usual. Right now, this party does not have a legislative action, a legislative agenda to send to the General Assembly. They're already meeting, and we haven't gotten any inputs into the General Assembly as a body. The Republican Party hasn't provided any agenda to them, and we never do. We're reactive to whatever they want to do. And I got to tell you something. If the party won't do it, the Conservative Coalition of North Carolina will do it, because we'll do what the party should have done. And that is step up and take action and raise money and recruit candidates and instill in the legislature a sense of self-preservation. I can tell you, we'll do it. If the party wants to sit on its butt and do business as usual, that's fine. Because the coalition, 24,000 strong now, the coalition will do it.
Gentlemen, I wish we could continue. This has been a spirited discussion, and there's a lot of really, really good information. Everybody, I think, agrees that that we need to do something. The question is, what is it, and how to get it done? But we need, if we're gonna rely on the Republican Party to set the framework for what we're going to do as a group of individuals in counties and districts, then we need to pull all people, everybody together that's a stakeholder, and get in a damn room and try to figure out what to do and how to do it. And that includes vetting these candidates and not letting them get elected and then go up to whatever job they're going to do and then become who they were to start with. We can't allow that to continue to happen. It's a really, really good discussion we had. I wish we had more time.